Welcome. I would like to welcome you to episode 367 of the Unpopular Podcast. This is the man, the myth, the legend, Jalen Hunter. And here at the Unpopular Podcast, not only ask you to agree with me, I'm asking you to hear me out. It's rare on any given Sunday, or it's rare in the NFL to see things that we've never seen. Especially when we look at the history of sports or look at the history of the NFL. It's very hard to see something for the first time. It's a little jarring at first. So a lot of times you don't know what to make of it because, again, this is the first time we've seen it. Now, where I'm going to start this episode, obviously I'm going to start with breaking down week 3 of the NFL season. But where we're going to start is obviously with the Denver Broncos getting 70 points put on their head against the Miami Dolphins. Now, in no means is this the first time we've seen a lopsided score like this. In no means is this the first time that we've seen an offense as prolific as the Dolphins is, which we'll talk about in a second. But I want to start on the Denver Nuggets or Denver Broncos side. The Denver Broncos obviously lost 70-20. And going into this season, I talked about this a little bit before, but going into this season, the questions that we had wasn't, can Sean Payton coach this team? The question was, can Sean Payton coach Russell Wilson? We know how bad Russell Wilson looked last year, and we know how rocky it got towards the end of his Seattle days. And I've said this before, but I'm very hesitant on building up a team or expecting success from a team that's been loud in the offseason. I talked about that with the Bills. I didn't expect much. I'm not going to say I expect them to be trash, but I didn't expect them to be a championship caliber team because of the noise that permeated through their organization this offseason. Now, again, I right now I could be wrong. We'll talk about this. We'll talk about it when we get to that game. But along with the Bills, the Denver Broncos are one of the loudest teams, obviously, this offseason. When we talk about, getting a new coach in Sean Payton and, the Sean Payton comments with Nathaniel Hackett and how you're not really supposed to comment on another coach that's not in your organization. And, of course, the Russell Wilson and how he's going to approach Russell Wilson or how he's approaching coaching Russell Wilson. It was just a lot. One thing that I never expected, and I don't think that anyone expected, especially after what we saw last year and what we've seen through the first 3 weeks of this year. Nobody expected the Denver Broncos to struggle the way they are struggling. I don't think it's surprising that the Denver Broncos are 0-3. Well, no, I didn't think they would be 0-3 to start the season. I thought that they could either be really good or it could take some time. And as we sit here today, it looks like the whole taking some time thing is what's more likely. But I didn't expect them to struggle on the defensive side of the ball. Let's make one thing clear. The Denver Broncos are struggling team-wide. While, yes, Russell Wilson is playing better than he played last year, he's not absolved of what is wrong with the Broncos right now. Russell Wilson has struggled mightily in second halves of games this year. While you can look at the numbers, 306 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, and think, oh, that's not that bad. He threw for 600 or 300 yards. They gave up 70 points. They lost by 50. So when I hear a lot of people say, and I've said this too, Russell Wilson is not to blame for the Denver Broncos struggle. While no, I wouldn't put majority of the blame on Russell Wilson. I think he's played much better this year than he did last year. He isn't the reason why they're succeeding. Let me say that. But the biggest issue for the Denver Broncos this year has been their offensive line, or has not offensive line, I'm sorry, has been their defense. Their defense has been one of, if not the worst defense in football. Now, when you I understand that Bradley Chubb's not there, but when you have a Patrick Surtain, when you have a Randy Gregory, which I don't think he's played yet, but when you have the players that they have, they shouldn't be. And you going into the season, you're thinking that if anything was to go right from day one, it would be their defense. Well, that has been furthest from the truth. We're going to talk about another team in a second. But as we sit here today, the Denver Broncos are one of the worst teams in football. And what we're trying to do, what people are trying to do, what I find myself trying to do at times is I'm trying to latch on to positivity. I don't like negativity. Nobody likes, well, I'm not going to say nobody, but I don't like negativity. I don't like, swimming in the realm of negativity. I try to find positivity in everything. I try to find positivity in even poor situations. I try to find the positivity, or I try to shovel out a positive outcome out of a negative situation. So when I look at this Denver Broncos team, I'm trying to find positivities. And while you can say, yeah, Russell Wilson has been very good the first half of games, or Russell Wilson has been good, or let me say better than he was last year. You can also say Sean Payton's record, like the history of Sean Payton, has been really well. It's very hard in the present to find positivities with this team. I tell people all the time, because people ask me, Jalen, why don't you coach? I play basketball a lot. I pretty much immerse myself in basketball. And people ask why I don't coach. Why haven't I gone the route of coaching? And it's very simple. I know I'm not going to be a good coach. I know my personality, my temperament, I know that I would be a horrible coach because I have a tough time. I have a tough time understanding the situation at hand at times. Meaning this. I have a tough time coaching up somebody. Because it's like, if I tell you, hey, bro, your man is the best three-point shooter on the team. There should be no reason why he should ever get a wide open three. Because he is their best and their only three-point shooter. And then the very next play, homie that I just talked about hits a wide open three, I'm benching you for the game. Because it's like, obviously, you're not understanding what I'm saying, bro. Obviously, you're not good. And that's my mindset. I can't have that mindset, obviously, coaching. So that's why I'm not a good coach. Why did I just insert myself in this conversation? Because you, as a coach, you have to be able to connect with your entire team. That's one of the difficulties about coaching, especially coaching in a professional league, because most of the time the players make more money than you. Like that's just usually what it is. So it's not like you can come in here on your high horse and be like, only a few coaches can do that. Because at the end of the day, a lot of players have every player has ego. Every player has a lot of players are making more money than the coach. A lot of people was skeptical going into this season with Sean Payton being the head coach of this team or of the Denver Broncos because of the reputation that Russell Wilson has as a player, especially last year. And throughout the first 3 weeks, it hasn't looked like Sean Payton has been able to connect with Russell Wilson. You're hearing, I understand there are different coaching styles. You know, there's a authoritarian coaching style. There's a punishment coaching style. There's a friendly or friend to friend coaching style. I understand that there's different types of coaching styles. But you also have to understand there's different type of players, and a lot of players take, or how do I let me say, a lot of different players take on or take kindly to different. How do I say this? Let me say this. Let me put this in a legible sentence. A lot of players don't take kindly to certain type of coaching styles. And what it seems like is the coaching style that Sean Payton brings, historically, Russell Wilson has not taken kindly to that. Let's say that. You know, we know Sean Payton is the type of coach that tells it exactly how it is and doesn't mince words and is very drill sergeant-y and very blunt and cutthroat. Well, that hasn't really bode well coaching someone like Russell Wilson. Now, I do think that both sides has to understand that there has to be some give or take. And I'm not an insider. I don't know if this can just be a I can just be emphatically wrong. It's just what it looks like. What it looks like is, especially in the second half of games, there is such a disconnect between the coach and the players, especially Sean Payton and Russell Wilson. Look here, do you know how hard it is to put up 70 points? Me and my girl can be playing Madden, and I don't know if I would put up 70 points. That's tough to do. I think it's time. I understand the statistics of a team that goes 0-3 and their likelihood or their chances of making the playoffs is very slim to none. And I don't think that the Denver Broncos, especially currently constructed and especially how this defense is playing, I don't think that they're playoff bound. But what I am saying is I'm looking into the future. That's what you have to do with this Denver Broncos team. You have to look into the future, and you have to understand I don't know how much longer we're going to see a Russell Wilson, Sean Payton marriage. It doesn't seem like anyone in Denver likes Russell Wilson. And we know the track record that Sean Payton has. People are going to side with Sean Payton before they ever side with Russell Wilson, unfortunately. So, yes, I understand that this is one game. If I was a coach, I wouldn't watch the tape of this game. Ain't no goddamn way I'm watching the tape of this game. But there is a lot of problems in Denver, and it's not just a Russell Wilson or Sean Payton problem. There's multiple layers to this problem lasagna when we talk about the Denver Broncos, because losing 70-20 isn't just a 1 week thing. Like, this isn't just it just wasn't our day. No, there is a lot more brewing under the surface. And on the Miami Dolphins side, this is the team. This is the team that we expected when Mike McDaniels. In fact, it's not. Let me actually backtrack. No one expected the Miami Dolphins to be this good. Nobody expected the Miami Dolphins to be this good. Now, don't get me wrong. Before Tua's injury last year, they were playing well. Tua looked really good. He didn't look like MVP caliber, but he looked really good. This team, the connection between him and Tyreek Hill looked great. The Miami Dolphins were looking incredible before Tua got hurt last year. But this is what happens when you have you know what we saw on Sunday? We saw an organization that doesn't have anything, like there's no connection between anyone, compared to a team that everyone is on a string. Everybody goes in there with a goal. Everybody is laser focused, and everyone is on the same page. Compared to a team that nobody's on the same page. Yo, listen to some of these numbers, bro. Tua Tagovailoa only missed 3 passes, 23 for 26, 309 yards, 4 touchdowns. Davon Acne, I know I said your name wrong, bro. I apologize. He carried for 18 carries, 203 yards, 2 touchdowns. Raheem Mostert, 13 carries, 82 yards, 3 touchdowns. Tyreek Hill, 9 receptions, 157 yards, 1 touchdown. Raheem Mostert had 7 receptions, 60 yards, another touchdown. Yo, we talk about the greatest. They've been comparing. I think this is the 4th time in NFL history that a team has scored 70 points. And of course, they want to compare this Miami Dolphins team to the greatest show on turf, the Rams. I think it was 2000. I'll say this. Mind you, they put up 70 points, and their second best wide receiver in Jalen Waddle didn't play. I don't care what you bring to the table. I don't care what any team does. If this Miami Dolphins team, I'm not going to say they're putting up 70 every time. I'm not saying that. But if this team is able to stay healthy, especially with Jalen Ramsey coming and, of course, Jalen Waddle probably playing next game, if this team is able to stay healthy, this is by far the best team in football. And I think, again, 3 weeks in, I have Tua Tagovailoa the clear-cut MVP right now. And this is the manifestation of the team Mike McDaniels, who, by the way, was I think, ball boy for the Denver Broncos in the beginning of his career when he was young. And now he put up 50 on them boys. That's crazy. Again, you can sum this game up in, you saw one team that nobody is on the same page compared to a team that every single person in that organization is on the same page. It's like a snowball. It's like a snowball falling down a hill. Once it picks up steam and once it starts getting bigger and metastasizing, boy, I don't know how you stop it. Like an avalanche. That's what it is. Like an avalanche. But yeah, shouts out to the Miami Dolphins for beating the Denver Broncos 70-20. The next game I want to talk about is the New York Jets losing again to the Patriots. One of the biggest reasons why I said it has to be tough to be a coach is because, like I said, you have to connect with everyone. And what I'm seeing with this Jets team is Robert Saleh finds himself in a very tough situation. A situation that I don't know. I know what I would do, but obviously I'm quarterback. I'm a couch coach. I understand the very tough situation and very tough predicament that the Jets are in right now. I talked about this last episode and episode 1. You put all your apples in that Aaron Rodgers basket. For the basket to completely fall apart 4 plays in the season. And you have this player in Zach Wilson that we all saw you and the organization give up on last year. I don't know. I am old enough to remember that they had Mike White shirts. The team had Mike White shirts, who was the backup quarterback for Zach Wilson last year. They had Mike White shirts with Zach Wilson healthy on the team. You guys gave up on this player. And as much as I know you gave up on this player, Zach Wilson knows you gave up on him. So, you put all your eggs in the Aaron Rodgers basket. The basket completely falls apart. 4 plays in, tears his Achilles, out for the season. So now you have to turn back to Zach Wilson, I'm sorry. And the reason why I say it has to be hard being a coach is because you have to make a decision. Do you save one player or do you save a locker room? Now, I understand if it's, like a wide receiver or something, like, all right, cool. Like, you can go. But this is the quarterback of your team. I saw that they just brought Trevor Siemian in. Let's not mince words here. Zach Wilson has been terrible as a NFL player. You know how, and we'll talk about Justin Fields in a second. You know how I said that Justin Fields has had flashes of greatness? Zach Wilson has not. Zach Wilson has been terrible. In fact, shouts out to First Take and shouts out to Stephen A. Smith. Zach Wilson has comparable numbers to Russell Wilson. Not Russell Wilson. Why do I keep saying Russell Wilson? Zach Wilson has numbers comparable to Jamarcus Russell, the person that everyone universally, when we talk about NFL bust, his name is probably on the Mount Rushmore of that. And Zach Wilson has numbers comparable to Jamarcus Russell. Zach Wilson is not a good quarterback. He has not proven to be not just a backup quarterback, but a NFL quarterback. I don't like calling for people's jobs. I don't like saying people should be fired or cut or whatever. But what I'm saying is Zach Wilson has not shown the ability to be an NFL quarterback. He's been god awful. And I understand the sentiment of you don't want to, you don't really have much. Like, think about it. One of the biggest reasons why the Jets are in such a bad situation is because you're not bringing in a running back. You're not bringing in a Dalvin Cook 3 weeks into the season. It's tough because you're looking to bring in a quarterback, and the quarterback is the most important position on the field. So now you're bringing in a new quarterback that is going to have to learn a new system 3 weeks in to the season, not 3 weeks into 3 weeks into the season. That is damn near impossible. In fact, we've seen several times where that has not worked. So I understand the situation that it's tough. You're hearing names like Matt Ryan, like Carson Wentz, like Cam Newton. Like, you're hearing these are obviously quarterbacks that don't have a job right now. Or let me say, isn't on an NFL team. But when I say it has to be tough for Robert Saleh, because there's almost every report that comes out of the Jets locker room or comes out of the Jets organization is there's such a disconnect between Zach Wilson and the team, because they understand. Everyone that watches this Jets team and that sees this Jets team understands that this team is much better than what they're producing on the field. And that is because of the quarterback. You have the reigning offensive rookie of the year. You have a guy in Breece Hall who would have won the offensive rookie of the year if he didn't get hurt last year. You have the reigning defensive rookie of the year in Sauce Gardner. You have Quentin Williams. You have CJ Mosley. You have so many good players. But it doesn't matter because you have Zach Wilson. So I understand, Robert Saleh and his we're going to stick by Zach Wilson or Zach Will. I will say this. The line that Robert Saleh continues to say, and he's absolutely right about right now, is Zach Wilson gives us the best shot of winning. He is absolutely correct about that, because Zach Wilson is the only quarterback on this roster that can play out, i.e. Aaron Rodgers. He's the only quarterback on this roster that has been here throughout the offseason. So he's the best quarterback. He's the only quarterback that knows the schemes, the plays, the cadences. He's the only one that knows that can play right now. So, as currently constructed, yes, he is the best. He gives them the best chance of winning. But on the other hand, he's also the main reason why you're losing. You can't point to anything else but Zach Wilson. And while I understand it's tough, like, what do you turn to? Trevor Siemian ain't it either. But it just feels like this is such a young roster. And one thing that we know about young rosters and youth is that they're very fragile. And what I mean by that is it's very easy to divide a young locker room. And this Jets team is a young locker room that I know it's tough. Going into the season, did not expect to be this bad. And they're not this bad because of the entire team. They're this bad because their most important position is terrible, and that is the quarterback position. It's tough. I don't know. I understand you want to go get a new quarterback, but again, it's going to be tough, especially 3 weeks in, to learn a whole new system. I heard, maybe you should go get Kirk Cousins. Well, do you know how tough it is that Kirk Cousins is now going to have to forget everything that he knows with the Vikings and learn the Jets? It's tough. It's tough. The Jets are in a lose-lose situation right now. Oh, bro, it's tough. And I don't want to. I'm not going to sit and talk about the New England Patriots that much. I mean, they won. To me, the only reason why they won is because they played a lesson or an inferior quarterback on the other side in Zach Wilson. And we know who the New England Patriots are. We know they're a defensive first team. Matthew Judon was incredible yesterday. And they were great. But what I do want to just address is Mac Jones and the quote unquote dirty hit allegations. You can only be accused of something a few times before there has to be validity to it. And I think the worst part of Mac Jones and the worst part about what Mac Jones does is we can clearly see it on video. Of course, there was, Sauce Gardner accused Mac Jones of course, hitting him below the belt. And Sauce Gardner even put out a video showing it happening. And it was clear as day that he did that. The thing that I know about sports and the thing that I know about team sports is, of course, you want to beat your opponent. That's clear as that. You don't practice all week not to try to beat your opponent. But one thing, especially when we talk about physical sports like football, you want to beat your opponent, but you do care about the NFL is a fraternity, bro. The basketball, the NBA is a fraternity. You care about your opponent. You may not, you don't want to go out to dinner with your opponent or whatever, but you care. You don't want them to get hurt. You don't want them you don't want to do things that cause them to get hurt. That's why I didn't understand the vitriol that Minka Fitzpatrick got with the Nick Chubb injury. I understand, his hit ultimately resulted in Nick Chubb being out for the entire year, but Minka Fitzpatrick didn't mean to do that. No one wants to see someone get hurt. But I don't understand, or the difference between now, usual players and players that are multiple or are accused of being dirty is because it just doesn't seem like those players care about. I understand that you do anything to win, but when you go out your way to try to be malicious and try to really hurt your other players, that's a problem. And I understand that there's a lot more things to talk about, and we're going to move on shortly. But Mac Jones has been accused on several occasions of being a dirty player. And maybe because he's white, maybe because he plays for the Patriots, maybe because, he's not the quote-unquote best quarterback, that people just sweep it under the rug. But no, this continues to happen. And one time can be a mistake, 2 times can be an accident, 3 times is a pattern. There's been way more than 3 times. There's a video compilation on YouTube that's showing dirty plays that Mac Jones has done. But congratulations to the New England Patriots for beating the Jets 15-10. Let's move forward. I was very critical, or I have been very critical of Justin Fields this year. To me, Justin Fields has been awful this year. Like, terrible. But one thing that I said, and one thing that I've clearly said, I've said this very clearly, is I'm putting the blame on Justin Fields that he deserves. And that is his problem. I didn't put this entire Chicago Bears team problems on him. I'm putting the thing that Justin Fields can improve on is what he needs to improve, and that is seeing the field. Let's not get it twisted, bro. What's going on with the Chicago Bears is not just Justin Fields' fault. Justin Fields does play a part in it, and he only plays his part. But no, it's not just a Justin Fields issue. You are blind if you have not watched this NFL season, these first 3 weeks, and not crown the Chicago Bears as the worst team in football. I cannot name one positive unit for this Bears team. Now, you can argue the wide receiver unit. You have Mooney, you have DJ Moore, you have Claypool. But they haven't been good either. And it's very hard for a wide receiver core to be good when the quarterback can't get them the ball. The Chicago Bears are the worst team in football by far. And shouts out to Ryan Clark, and shouts out to the NFL Live crew, Dan Orlowski, Marcus Spears. Shouts out to Laura Rutledge, Mina Kynes, because they pointed out something that I've been overlooking myself. And they made a comparison that opened my eyes to everything. When you're the head coach of a team, or when you're the head coach is pretty much the point of an organization, right? Your job is to bring the best out of every player and bring the best out of the organization. That is why you are hired. We'll talk about them in a second, or we'll talk about them a little later in the show, but one of the biggest reasons why Mike Tomlin is such a great coach. Mike Tomlin isn't such a great coach because he's been to a Super Bowl, or isn't such a great coach because, you know, he makes the Steelers a Super Bowl contender year after year, which is furthest from the truth, right? One of the biggest reasons why Mike Tomlin is considered such a great coach is it doesn't matter if they're 8-8. It doesn't matter if they're, below 500 at any point of the season. He gets the most out of every single player. And even if the most isn't that good, Mike Tomlin gets the most out of them. He is the pure definition of leader of men. I may not, from the first 3 weeks of the season, Kenny Pickett hasn't really looked good. But there's no question that Mike Tomlin is getting the best out of him that he can. When you talk about the Ravens and Lamar Jackson, you can't have a player like Lamar Jackson and not plan an offense or not scheme offense around that player, because he's such a unique player that you can't just throw him in any offense. Like Lamar Jackson would never succeed in the Kansas City Chiefs offense. Lamar Jackson would never succeed in the Jets offense, because those offenses aren't built around Lamar Jackson. And we saw once the Ravens committed themselves to build an offense and to build a team around Lamar Jackson, you've seen nothing but success with this Ravens team. The Chicago Bears has not built the team around Justin Fields. They've built a team, and it feels like they've built a team, and they just added Justin Fields. They have been the pure definition of not getting the best out of their quarterback. I'm not just blaming it on the coach. It is an organizational problem. There is nothing good about this organization right now. Nothing. Whether the defense is trash, the offensive line is trash, Justin Fields has been trash. I mean, Justin Fields finished 11 for 22 for 99 yards the entire game as far as passing. Rushing, 11 rushes for 47 yards. It's almost organizational malpractice that you don't get the best out of your player. And as we sit here today, I can't find one positive. Maybe names. Obviously, DJ Moore is a good player. Mooney is a good player. But outside of that, I can't find much positives out of this out of this Chicago Bears team. This team is by far the worst team in football. And where I put the blame on on Justin Fields, where he deserves the fact that he's been awful seeing the field. Everything else is not his fault. You saw I think it was the Chicago Tribune, where they ranked every position or everything about the Bears, and everyone got an F. That's true. The Bears are terrible. I haven't seen a team this bad in a while, and honestly, if they keep this up, I'd be shocked if they win more than 2 games. So, now on the Kansas City Chiefs side, I don't even want to talk about Taylor Swift. I'm kind of tired talking about her or hearing about her and Travis Kelce. If it's a relationship, it's none of my business. It's none of our business, honestly. I understand that, Travis Kelce is Travis Kelce. I understand that she is Taylor Swift, but I don't really care about none of that. Kansas City Chiefs, they are starting. I'm not going to say they're rolling, but they're starting to figure things out, and they're starting to. They still have issues, obviously, and that is, of course, the relationship that Patrick Mahomes is building with these wide receivers, and how are you able to build around, or how he's trying to build relationships with these wide receivers outside of Travis Kelce, because again, Travis Kelce, 7 receptions for 69 yards and a touchdown. Like, Travis Kelce is Travis Kelce. He is one of the greatest, if not the greatest, tight end in NFL history. But I do, this is exactly what we thought would happen is exactly what happened. The Chiefs destroyed the Bears. So I don't really take much out of. I will say this, though, and this isn't just because it's the Bears, but the Chiefs, This is the first, even though Patrick Mahomes is their best player, but their best unit is the defensive unit or the defensive side of the ball, especially the defensive front. Their defense is undoubtedly their best unit right now. Again, I said their best player is Patrick Mahomes, but their best unit is on the defensive side of the ball, and that is something that should be scary for the rest of the league. So shouts out to the Chiefs for beating the Bears 41-10. I think this episode is I think the title of this episode is going to stem somewhere around coaching. Because Brandon Staley better think. The only reason why Brandon Staley has a job right now is because Kirk Cousins can't finish in big moments. I said it. The biggest reason why the Chargers and Brandon Staley are still married to each other is because Kirk Cousins cannot finish in big moments. Damn the numbers. I know that you're going to look and say, wait, what do you mean, Jay? Okay, so the Chargers beat the Vikings 28-24. You're going to look at the numbers and say, damn, Jay. Justin Herbert, 40 for 47, 405 yards. Keenan Allen threw a 49-yard touchdown. Keenan Allen also caught 18 receptions for 215 yards. Mike Williams, who did tear his ACL, he's out for the season. I hope for a speedy recovery. He had 7 receptions for 121 yards. You're going to look at that and say, well, of course they're going to win, bro. They did. My issue with Brandon Staley is, and it's not just my issue, it's the biggest problem with Brandon Staley is he continues to do things that have high risk, low reward. And of course, all this energy is stemming from, I think it's like 4th and 2, a minute and a half left in the game. You're on your own 20-yard line, or you're on your own 23 or something like that. And you're winning by 4 points. So all you have to do, I don't understand why you just don't kick it and have the Vikings go the length of the field in 1 minute and 30 seconds. Instead of going for it, up 4, going for it on your own 23, I think. So that when you don't make it, which you ultimately didn't, now the Vikings only have to go 23 yards to win the game. My issue is Brandon Staley continues to put his defense in bad situations. And trust me, I'm feeling this way, and I'm not even on the team. You think his defense doesn't feel? You think Joey Bosa and Derwin James and Khalil Mack aren't thinking, dog, why the hell do you keep putting us in this situation? I think when you look at the probability, if he would have kicked the ball, I think they would have had like an 80% chance of winning. Compared to if he would have got that first down, I think it would have been 82%. So you're telling me you're banking the game on 2%? Trust me, bro. If Kirk Cousins would have been able to finish the game, and when I mean finish, I mean win the game, Brandon Staley would be out of a job. Kirk Cousins, 367 yards, 3 touchdowns, an interception. Justin Jefferson, 7 receptions for 149 yards. Just a usual day for Justin Jefferson. It's just frustrating to see ineptitude at the coaching position. Because that is in no metric should that be the case where you should think that it's okay to do something like that. It was so bad. The color commentators. Now, mind you, the color commentators, their job is, of course, to tell the game and call the game and bring color to the game, i.e., color commentator. But their job is not their. How do I say this? Their job is to bring the best out of the game. They're not there to criticize the game as much as, you're not supposed to crap on the game. The color commentators didn't even do a good job at that because it's almost impossible to see what Brandon Staley is doing or Brandon Staley did and think to yourself, oh, let me bring some positivity out of that. Yo, he went for 4th and 2 and didn't get it. On your own, 23-yard line. So instead of having the Vikings go the length of the field in a minute and a half, you have them go 23 yards. 23. And trust and believe, if there was a better quarterback, if you gave Lamar Jackson 23 yards to win the game, you gave Patrick Mahomes, you gave Josh Allen. Come on, bro. Again, shouts out to the Chargers for beating the Vikings 28-24. But the only reason why Brandon Staley has a job right now is because Kirk Cousins couldn't finish. Couldn't seal the deal. Which is also fitting as to why the Minnesota Vikings are 0-3. It's not just on Kirk Cousins. Please don't hear me say that. But again, going into this season, I thought the NFC North was wide open. And I honestly thought going into it that the Vikings were one of, if not the best team in the division. The Vikings have been horrible, especially defensively. What we saw on Sunday is a microcosm of Kirk Cousins' career. Puts up huge numbers. Gets down early because they were down big early. Puts up huge numbers. If you look at the stat sheet, he looks like he had an incredible game. But just comes up short time and time after again. He did this when he was in Washington, and now he's doing this in Minnesota. So, yeah. Let's move forward. I have been on the table. I've been very vocal. You know what it is? Winning is very hard to criticize when you're winning. It's very hard to criticize anybody, criticize any team when they're winning. Because at the end of the day, issues can arise, but you're winning. And there's not much you can say to a winner. I know that you can improve and get better or whatever, but it's hard to criticize winning. Because obviously those criticisms aren't not resulting to losses. They're resulting to wins. I've been very vocal in saying that the Cowboys are one of, if not the best team in the NFC. I have talked about they looked good they have been one of the most, if not the most complete team in football. I think arguably the most complete team in football right now is the Miami Dolphins, but the Dallas Cowboys have been one of the best teams in football. And they've been winning. But that winning obviously finally came to an end on Sunday when they lost to the Arizona Cardinals 28-16. And the funny thing about sports is that losing shines lights on or shines a huge light on your problems more than winning. People are a lot more receptive to issues when they lose compared to when they win. You see, I've said that the Dallas Cowboys are one of the best teams in football. And I don't think that this loss changes that. But what it does do is it highlights issues that this team has had since week 1. We know that outside of the Denver, why do I keep saying the Denver? Jesus. Outside of the Miami Dolphins offensive side of the ball, offensive unit, let's say that. Outside of the Miami Dolphins offensive unit, the best unit in football, you can argue, has been the Dallas Cowboys defense. And their defense has led to multiple picks and multiple forced fumbles and multiple sacks. And their defensive unit has been dominant. And their defensive unit has overshadowed their biggest issue. And that has been the red zone inefficiency for this Dallas Cowboys and the offensive inefficiency for this Dallas Cowboys team. The Dallas Cowboys have been destroying people. But when you look, a lot of it hasn't been because of Dak Prescott. It's been because they've gotten defensive turnovers, they've gotten pick sixes, they've gotten strip sacks or strip sack touchdowns. Like, they have dominated on the defensive side of the ball. Dak Prescott hasn't been great. He's been good. He hasn't been great. And what we've seen is Dak Prescott and this team has struggled offensively, scoring points, especially in the red zone. And as great as Dak Prescott can be, as great as Tony Pollard can be, as great as, CeeDee Lamb can be, they struggle with scoring. They struggle with scoring on the offensive side of the ball. And until they get that rectified, if they can get that rectified, this team is going to be behind the 8 ball, even with as great as their defense is. Because as we saw on Sunday against the Arizona Cardinals, their it's very hard to be on 100 every single time. And I do want to shout out the Arizona Cardinals. They, even though coming into the season, they were expected to be by far the worst team in football. And with Joshua Dobbs as their quarterback, you didn't expect much, but they've been incredible, man. He hasn't been great, but he hasn't been bad. You know what I'm saying? This team has played hard. The defensively, they played hard. Nobody really gives James Connors respect that he deserves. He's been great running the football. Shouts out to the Arizona Cardinals for beating the Dallas Cowboys 28-16. I'm not saying that the Dallas Cowboys season is over. I'm not saying that they're trash now. But what I am saying is, it's kind of like a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde situation with the Dallas Cowboys. When they're on, they're on. And it's hard. You'd be hard pressed to beat them. When they're off, boy, it really highlights their issues, which of course is offensively, they haven't been that great, honestly. So, but we'll see. Moving forward, shouts out to the Cleveland Browns for beating the Tennessee Titans 27-3. A lot of people are coming into my DMs, and a lot of people are coming on to me talking about, are you going to take back what you said about Deshaun Watson and how awful he's looked? No. Did you see Deshaun Watson throw the ball behind him when there was nobody there? And even if there was, even if the running back caught it, he was it was 20, 25 yards behind the offensive or the line of scrimmage. What are you doing, bro? And you can look at these numbers: 27 for 33, 28 289 yards, 2 touchdowns, and think, oh, he's back. No, he is not. I need to see more consistency from Deshaun Watson before I, you know, go on a ledge and say he's no. What I will say though is at least through 3 weeks, this Cleveland Browns defense has been the best defensive unit in football. And that is, I mean, you can argue the Dallas Cowboys, you can argue the 49ers, but I think that in total, this Cleveland Browns team defense has given up like negative 35 rushing yards. That is incredible. Oh, wait, I haven't changed it. That is incredible. Shouts out to them. That is who I want to give the love to. This team, this Cleveland Browns team, if Deshaun Watson now, if he continues to put up the numbers that he did this week, and Amari Cooper, he had 116 yards. If he puts up the numbers and this defense continues to shine the way it's been shining, then of course the Cleveland Browns have a chance to make some noise. But I need to see more from Deshaun Watson because I've seen a lot of bad, haven't seen much good this season. But what I have seen consistently good is this defense. And this defense is, I'm not going to say by far, but for sure one of the best defensive units in football, if not the best. So shouts out to the Cleveland Browns for beating the Titans 27-3. I was very vocal about Jordan Love and his I was very vocal about Jordan Love and if he was going to be good or not. And I am here to say that I have been pleasantly surprised with Jordan Love. And I have been wrong so far. There have been times where he hasn't looked good, but Jordan Love has been very good for this Green Bay Packers team. And shouts out to the Green Bay Packers for beating the Saints 18-17. Now you can look and they're going to, you can say Derek Carr was out. And before he went out, they were up 17-0. You can say all that, but at the end of the day, they won the game. And Jordan Love looked great. I think this was the biggest comeback in Green Bay Packers history. He scored all 18 points in the second half or in the fourth quarter. He was great, man. Jordan Love has been really good, man. He misses, I'll say this. He has missed a lot of, some of his passes have been way off, but he did show that clutch gene against the Saints and the Saints defense that is an incredible unit. I have nothing but respect for Jordan Love, man, and he has proven me wrong. I will say that. He has proven me wrong, and at least through the first 3 weeks, he has looked incredible, and he's looked like one of, if not the best option for the Green Bay Packers moving forward. So shouts out to him, man. Shouts out to him. I also, boy. Ooh, boy. The Buffalo Bills beat the Washington Commanders 37-3. A lot of people want to look at Eric Bieniemy and go, Eric Bieniemy is trash. Because Sam Howell went 19 for 29, 170 yards, 0 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. Again, I think that you just ran into a better team. The Buffalo Bills have championship or Super Bowl caliber aspirations. The Washington Commanders, at least right now, do not. And I'm not gonna talk about. It's hard when the defense is good, obviously, but when you continuously put them on the field and you continuously give the Buffalo Bills short yardage, it's going to be tough. I think Sam Howell threw what, 2 pick sixes. It was bad. Yeah, the offensive line is not good, and this is one of those games where the youth of Sam Howell, the inexperience of Sam Howell, really showed. So yeah, man, it was tough. It was tough. Shouts out to Josh Allen. Yo, Josh Allen has really shut me up since the first game. I was very vocal on you can't trust Josh Allen. He didn't even have to do much and they won. It was the defense that did it all for this game. So, shouts out to the Buffalo Bills for being the Washington Commanders 37-3. I want to sit. We need to talk about something real quick. Congratulations and shouts out to the Houston Texans for beating the Jacksonville Jaguars 37-17. CJ Stroud had obviously his best game as a pro. He threw for 380 yards, 2 touchdowns. Shouts out to Tank Dell, 5 receptions for 145 yards, 1 touchdown. I think he also had a kick return touchdown. This was obviously the best game that the Houston Texans have played this year. They won their first game. They were incredible. Shouts out to them. And this win, they were the clear-cut best team on the field. And in every facet of the game, they dominated. So shouts out to the Houston Texans. What needs to be talked about is Trevor Lawrence. And the same rhetoric that, let me just speak for myself. The same rhetoric that I have for Justin Herbert, I think needs to be discussed when we talk about Trevor Lawrence. I know how good of a talent Trevor Lawrence is. I know that when we talk about sheer talent, Trevor Lawrence can be discussed amongst, the likes of a Justin Herbert, or not just Justin Herbert, of a Joe Burrow, of a Patrick Mahomes, as far as sheer talent. But the reason why we can't put him kind of like, and this is the same exact conversation I had about Justin Herbert last week or last episode. Look, the reason why you can't put Trevor Lawrence in that same class is because of games like this. You're at home. You're playing against a rookie quarterback. You're playing against a very young team. You should dominate this game. Now, yes, I understand that the Houston Texans defense has been good throughout this year, or through this year, or the early part of this year, but it shouldn't have been good enough to beat Trevor Lawrence at home. But Trevor Lawrence was terrible. Trevor Lawrence, 27 for 40, 279 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Trevor Lawrence wasn't that good. And he continues to have games like this. And now he'll have games like when they played against the Chargers in the playoffs, come back from a huge deficit and win the game. Then he'll have games like this. And like I said, talking about when I think I did a short about this too, about ranking Trevor Lawrence. Until we find consistency with him, it's hard for me to place him anywhere as a top tier quarterback. I'm not going to say he has top tier quarterback talent, but he has way too much inconsistency. This isn't just a 1 week thing. This happens multiple times with Trevor Lawrence. So I'm not taking anything away from the Houston Texans. Shouts out to them. They went in there and was the best team, hands down. But, nah. The Jaguars and Trevor Lawrence have to be better and have to be more consistent for me to put him as a top-tier quarterback, in my opinion. So, oh boy. The Indianapolis Colts beat the Ravens 22-19. Look here, man. I don't know why I thought that the Ravens were going to be healthy this year. I don't know. Now they could be healthy closer to this playoffs and everything, and the Ravens are still 2-1. But this game right here is the exact game that the Ravens lose every year. They should be up. They're at home. Inclement weather. They have a bunch of injuries, but they're still in it. Lamar Jackson keeps them in it. And ultimately they lose. This game, it feels like this type of game happens every single year. Oh, and you're playing against a team that doesn't even have their starting quarterback. Gardner Minshew was playing. Now, again, you can look to... I hate when people say they were playing inclement weather or they were playing in bad weather. I hate that because the other team was playing in the same weather and they won. You can't look at it and say, Rashad Bateman was out, Odell Beckham Jr. was out, like a bunch of defensive. Marlon Humphreys was out. There's a bunch of injuries right now for the Ravens. A lot of people didn't play. But you could have won. Justin, I know trying to bank, hoping that Justin Tucker, who will go down as arguably the best kicker of all time, makes a 60-yarder is crazy, but he's done it, and they lost. And there's a lot of conversation and talk about Todd Monken's offense in the Ravens and how it's looked difficult. It hasn't looked good. This Ravens offense has not looked good majority of the season or early in this season. And I am one of the people that I'm just gonna say, just wait, just hold off. It's still new. It's still 3 weeks in, and you're talking about a person, and you're talking about an offense in the Ravens and Lamar Jackson that is so used to Greg Roman. I mean, he's had Greg Roman for the longest, and now you have a new offensive and it looks the same, but you're pretty much bringing a whole new system, and it's going to take some time. So I'm not gonna take much into this game. I'm not taking away from the Indianapolis Colts either. Shouts out to them. Shouts out to Gardner Minshew. He was incredible. Zach Moss was really good. 30 carries for 122 yards. They won in overtime. Shouts out to them. I was also the line. I think the Lions go in and beat the Falcons 20-6. I think that the Falcons, they're a young team, yes, but the Falcons need that second win. They need, and when I don't mean second, I don't mean literally a second win. I mean, when their run game isn't good, I don't think Desmond Ridder has been good enough to be able to pick up the slack. And their run game was not good this week. I mean, Bijan Robinson, 10 carries for 33 yards. Tyler Aguilar had 7 carries for 12 yards. It just wasn't that good. And until they find balance, they're going to keep losing games like this. I know they're 2-1, so I'm not. The season isn't over. It's not doomed. But the Lions and this ferocious defensive front shut down the run game, and Desmond Ridder was not good enough to 21 for 38. The man missed 17 passes. 200 yards, it's not going to work. So, shouts out to the Lions. Jared Goff was pretty good at the end. He 22 for 33, 243 yards. It was all right. It's just like I said, the Falcons have banked these first 3 weeks on how good and how flashy their run game is. Well, it wasn't that good this Sunday, and as we saw, they need to be better. So shouts out to them. Boy, shouts out to the Seahawks for beating the Panthers 37-27. Boy, I will say that there was some positives coming out of the Panthers. Andy Dalton looks like he can still play. Yo, Andy Dalton threw for 361 yards, 2 touchdowns. He also threw damn near 60 times. But this game to me was about the when we've talked about, the top 2 or top 3 teams in the NFC. Of course, the Cowboys, the 49ers, and the Eagles. A lot of times the other teams aren't discussed a lot, and that is the Seattle Seahawks. This can be one of those teams that could surprise a lot of people. Kenneth Walker III, who I thought was going, once Breece Hall went out, I thought that he was going to be the offensive rookie of the year last year. He had 18 carries for 97 yards, 2 touchdowns. DK Metcalf had 6 receptions for 112 yards. Geno Smith threw for 296 yards. Like, the Seahawks is a good team. They are a complete team, and the issues that they've had, which has been their defense for the longest, is not an issue anymore. And I would not be shocked if the Seahawks play a major role in the who advances in the playoffs, if not them. So, shouts out to the Seahawks for beating the Panthers 37-27. Ooh, I'm not going to stay long on Pittsburgh. It kind of goes back to bad coaching. When we talk about the Raiders, you're down 8 points with 2 minutes left in your territory, and you kick a field goal, and you give the ball back to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, I understand the Pittsburgh Steelers weren't like doing that well on offense, but neither was the Raiders defense. So it's like, what are you doing? That was a hard game to watch. I'm not taking anything away from Pittsburgh. Shouts out to the Steelers for beating the Raiders 23-18, but it's like, look. Maybe I don't know much, but it's obvious. Yo, your defense hasn't been that good. Jimmy G is probably concussed. Why don't you just keep going? Why don't you just go for it? But you instead kick a field goal and hope that your defense gets a stop, which they really haven't been able to do all game. Shocker, they didn't. And now you get the ball back for like 15 seconds left, and the very first pass is an interception. Yeah, shouts out to the Steelers for beating the Raiders 23-18. The Eagles destroyed on Monday Night Football. They destroyed the Buccaneers. Now, if you look at the total score, it doesn't look that bad. It was 25-11, but it was pure dominance. I think the Eagles had damn near 400 yards of total offense. DeAndre Swift had 133 yards. Jalen Hurts had 277 yards in the air. He ran for 28 yards. Antonio Brown had 131. Like, come on, and it kind of exposed what I thought, and that is Baker Mayfield he's been better, but he's not on that elite level yet. And I'm not even gonna say yet. He's not on that elite level. Because even though Jalen Hurts did throw 2 interceptions and he didn't look that good, he looked much better than Baker Mayfield. I will say that. So, I think the Eagles do have some things to clean up, but I will say this. This defense that the Eagles have, when they are clicking, when you have Jalen Carter looking great, you have Nolan Smith, like, this defense is ferocious. This defensive front, Fletcher Cox, this defensive front is incredible. And this defense in general, because you still have Darius Slay, you still have Bradbury, like, this defense is good. And I understand that, Jalen Carter may not be a full-time player right now. Like, he can't get majority of the snaps because he's still learning stuff. But this boy with Jordan look like, yeah, man. Their defense is the biggest reason why they won this game, and their run game, honestly. So, shouts out to the Eagles. And the last game, man, that we are going to talk about in the NFL was, of course, the second Monday Night Football game. The Bengals got their first win of the season and beating the Rams 19-16. This Bengals team, they won because, I mean, Joe Burrow, you can obviously tell, still has a hamstring injury. He did throw for 259 yards, no touchdowns, one interception. The reason why they won this game is because of the defense. Their defense was incredible on Monday. Now, when we talk about the Rams, the Rams offensive line is horrible. Like, the Rams offensive line is going to be probably the reason why they don't do much this season, as far as like they may miss the playoffs because of how bad this offensive line is. And Matthew Stafford's good, but he threw 2 interceptions, one of which was pretty bad. One of them was a tipped ball but yeah. And honestly, they don't have. I mean, they have Puka Nacua. He's been pretty good. Tutu Atwell's been good, but they don't have a running game. And until Cooper Kupp comes back, it's gonna be tough sledding. And they beat a Bengals team that they could have Now, I do know that I think 2 touchdowns pretty much was called back. One of which is because the Bengals called a timeout. The other one, I think Tutu Atwell, they said he was out of bounds when you saw the replay, which was actually kind of a storyline this week. Yo, I'm not killing officials. Like, obviously, you don't want to put yourself in that situation, but there was multiple games and multiple situations where officials really dictated the end of the game. Like with the Ravens, they missed a blatant pass interference. They also missed a blatant face mask on Zay Flowers. They called back a touchdown with this Rams-Bengals game. There was another, I don't remember who it was, but they called out on somebody that clearly wasn't out. Yes, it was a tough week for the for officials. Oh, and shouts out to Jamar Chase. Finally woke up, 12 receptions for 141 yards. So, shouts out to the Bengals, man. That was week 3 of the NFL. So, I'm not gonna stay on this long, obviously, because it happened Sunday or Saturday, but Oregon did beat Colorado 42-6, like destroyed them. And I think the outcome of this game to me wasn't as surprising. Actually, it wasn't surprising that Oregon won. I thought Oregon was the better team. I just was shocked by how much they won. Colorado was 1-11 last year. And I understand recruiting is a big thing and Coach Prime is a big thing, and they've been good throughout the first 2 weeks of the season. But, and I don't mean this by any disrespect, but there are levels. And while I do think that Colorado is going to be good for years to come with Coach Prime, it's very hard to turn a 1-11 team around to a national championship powerhouse in 1 week. In 1 year. I don't think that's ever happened. And the issues, there are glaring issues for this Colorado Buffalo team. Their offensive line is horrible. Shador Sanders, is the most sacked quarterback in college football. And it's really him or nothing, because I know Travis Hunter, he was out, and he's such a huge part to their team. Their defense isn't that good without Travis Hunter. Yeah, man. Well, I'm not gonna say it's not that good. They just ran into an incredible offense with the Oregon Ducks. I guess highlight is something that Deion Sanders said after the game, which I completely agree with. And that is these teams aren't trying to beat Colorado. They're trying to beat Coach Prime. They're trying to beat Deion Sanders. One thing that I do know about sports, especially college sports, is that a lot of times they don't like new. And they don't like new fast. This Colorado attention, this Colorado team is new. And you're not used to that. What are we doing? So, of course, people want to beat them. People don't like the flashiness. People don't like the attention that Colorado's getting because a lot of people feel like their team, their organization, their school should get that type of attention. But at the end of the day, you're not. So you just deal with it. So, and I think a lot of what we saw against Oregon is what we're about to see against USC. What I will say though, USC is not good defensively, so it might be a shootout, but I do wholeheartedly think the USC is going to win that game. I don't think that the Colorado season should be over. I know that they're unranked now after this win or loss, but yeah. I think when Colorado goes into any school now, because of Deion Sanders, it's a huge game for any team that they play. So we'll see. That has been today's episode of the Unpopular Podcast. I do want to shout out Breanna Stewart. Congratulations to her for winning her second MVP. I thought Asia Wilson was going to win it, but I do respect, Breanna Stewart for winning it. She had the most 40-point games in, I think, WNBA history this year, I believe. She's incredible. She's the star. She's the star in New York. Even though, of course, you have Sabrina Descu and Jonquel Jones and Courtney Vandersloot. Breanna Stewart is the engine to that car, and well deserved. I'm not mad that she won. I don't think that she didn't deserve it. Much praise from her. Congratulations again, Breanna Stewart, for winning the MVP for her second one, I believe. Yeah, that's been today's episode of Unpopular Podcast. Truly appreciate you guys. If you want a Popular Podcast shirt, hoodie, sweater, long sleeve joggers, the link is in the description below. I have multiple different colors, multiple different designs, so get your Unpopular Podcast merch today. Also, please subscribe to the YouTube channel. I want that to grow. I want as many people to subscribe as possible, and I can't do it without you guys. So tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend. If you haven't subscribed, what are you doing? How do you get this far into the episode and not subscribed? It's kind of crazy if you think about it. But yeah, man, I appreciate you guys. And subscribe if you can. Also, follow the socials. Follow Instagram, follow TikTok. I post pretty much daily on there, so we can have conversations, we can debate, definitely have fun. So until next time, much love.